Welcome back to Freedom Planet. This is part 3, and now we're in Fade Creek, I think it said. That font is really fucking cursive. So, what's the gimmick here? Well, as you just saw, we have these, dandelions? No, okay, there's a very particular name for that kind of flower. The kind of flower that, you know, it starts out as this, like, puffy piece of shit, and then it becomes, like, a really nice yellow flower. Or was it the other way around? Does it start as a yellow flower and becomes a puffy piece of shit that makes me sneeze? Because genuinely, I sneeze a lot when those are around in the real world dimension. Fortunately, this game is not the real world dimension, so I don't mind them too much, except they are a very, well, they're a fun little, like, stage gimmick, but they do sometimes create a little bit of confusion as to how I'm expected to maneuver around them, like when I'm supposed to jump off them and stuff. And also, look, we have an air meter, that's right. You actually know exactly how long you have to breathe underwater, because even though she's a dragon, she can't breathe underwater because, well, I mean, I don't know. Is that in the mythos of what dragons are supposed to be? They're supposed to be able to breathe underwater? I don't know. Look at that water. It looks completely different from the water that you actually interact with, but that's okay. You also have these giant meteors falling down, which are actually these little robot dudes, and I'll see if I can do anything about this, because as you saw, there was these gems that were, yep, they're lined up, and they want you to ricochet. See, the thing is, this game has a heavy, okay, I want to say a heavy emphasis on problem solving using the physics engine, kind of. Basically, you can do this. You can ricochet off stuff, and that allows you to reach new locations that you might not be able to just by normally jumping to there, right? Also, that background is really pretty, and oh, that right there is the most colossal bitch in the universe. I hate her so much. I hate her because I've played this game on normal difficulty, where you actually have to not take too much damage, and it's just the fucking worst. There's another puzzle here. Well, it's not really a puzzle, but, you know, it's a little maneuverability challenge. You have to figure out, like, oh yes, I'm going to ricochet off the wall and go over there, and there you go. Screen transition. I'm not sure why there's so many of them when, I don't know, maybe it's a limitation of Click Team Fusion, because yes, I looked it up. This game doesn't run in Game Maker, it runs in Click Team Fusion. Game Maker was I'm thinking of some other fan game or retail release, or I don't know. Technically, everything's a fan game of a fan game, but regardless, you got, what do you have? These weird purple enemies that, honestly, I don't know what they're supposed to be, and I don't know what they're supposed to do in terms of gameplay, because you just kind of jump over them and ignore them. This game's enemies actually have a very bad case of being very easily ignorable, and that's primarily because, see, this is why most platformers don't do what this game does, which I partially wish more games did, and that was the whole touch damage system, because this game doesn't have touch damage. You actually have to be attacked. Problem is, oftentimes that means that you're not really going to get hurt by a lot of enemies, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. It just means that a lot of the enemies seem very ineffective, you know? Like, just what's the point of them even being there when we're just going to run past them? It's kind of like the 3D platformer issue, but in 2D, because you know how a lot of 3D platformers struggle, or at least they used to struggle with enemies just kind of being there, except not necessarily being in the way because you just jump around them. Yeah, well, this game kind of has that same problem, but in 2D, funnily enough. There you go, there's more of these things. I don't know what you called in Poland, whatever. Basically, these things make me sneeze, and I hate them, but here, they cause a very strange rotated sprite to appear of your character, and then you sort of just hover using them. This right here is your invincibility. I keep forgetting to mention that, right? Yeah, it is. The crystal, the rainbow gem, basically, which, wait a second, is that a callback to popular video game platformer Sonic the Hedgehog, released in 2006 for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3? Initially planned to also be released for Nintendo Wii, but that ended up becoming Sonic and the Secret Rings, which ironically enough is the worst game, except it is more polished. Like, it looks better and sounds... Actually, no, the soundtrack is better in 06. Oh, okay, they're two very different styles. You know, like, the 06's soundtrack is more just like typical instrumental Sonic music, right? Whereas with Secret Rings, I mean, who's gonna rock the place? Place. Who's gonna rock the place? You know what I mean, right? Come on, we can never forget that theme. Ah, that guy was a legend. Come on, Armani. I seriously, what happened to him? I know that a lot of bad things happened to him in his life, and I really do wish him best, in case that, you know, assuming that none of it was, like, directly his fault or anything. But you know what they say, everything's my fault. Don't reference that kind of music at this point in the game. It's not thematically appropriate. This game was released in 2014, not 1994, except that, funnily enough, hold on, wait, didn't Doom 2 have a reference to that? Like, there was a level called Nirvana, and then there was, like, a shotgun in the level? I think so. I hope I'm wrong about that, because that's in very poor taste. but at the same time, I mean, that'd be like a fucking video game release in like the mid-2010s having a level called Static X and you pick up drugs or something like that, or a game released in 2017 having a level called Lincoln, but spelled differently, Park, and then there's like a noose somewhere. That would just not be in good taste at all. But, or maybe just me referencing that as like an idea that I just came up with would be in bad taste. I mean, come on, we all have like these thoughts of things that we definitely shouldn't say, but then we accidentally say them. A good thing that, well, actually no, because at this point in time, I don't know what the viewership of this series might be. I mean, the Mario Sunshine series and the Mega Man 11 series is doing okay. The Forsaken series, not so much, but I mean, I'm not really surprised. I can already predict those kind of things, you know? What I wasn't expecting was that GT Pro Series video to do so well. Like, really? I mean, guys, I mean, thank you so much for that, but I really wasn't expecting it, because, like, right after, like, you know, coming off of Sonic 4 Episode 1 and 2, I was like, okay, because Sonic generally does well, and Mario does well. I was actually thinking of doing Mario Sunshine, but then I turned it into a playthrough instead. But, like, with GT Pro Series, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those fun videos that I do for myself, basically. But no, apparently, some people like that, so that's cool. Go watch the Turok video. I spent a lot of time on that one. I'm sorry, that's like, I just realized by the time you're seeing this, it's several months old. Anyway, here's this bitch I was talking about. So here's her actual strategy. Here, let me try and fight her legitimately for a little bit without just taking the hits. What you have to do is you have to, oh fuck, avoid the quick boomerangs that are literally just quick boomerangs from Mega Man 2. And then you have to find the right timing to bash into her like that, because that shield never goes away unless you attack it. So you do that, you hit her, then when she, I think when she makes a sound, she will then she'll say freeze, and hold on, yeah, there you go, and she'll throw these ice chunks at you, which are actually pretty easy to avoid. The mines themselves don't seem to do damage. And there you go. Now, for some reason, occasionally her shield just doesn't render correctly. I don't know what's up with that, but you gotta remember, this game is running on the same engine that powers Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm not even kidding. Click Team Fusion, I don't know if it's for like the one used for the actual Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's the most popular FNAF fan game engine. Like back when in like 2014 or something, when I had my obligatory 13-year-old has a fucking FNAF phase, I tried making a FNAF fan game. Of course, it never happened, but I did get as far as like actually figuring out how to make the screen scroll when you move the mouse around and stuff like that. And then I lost interest. That's always what happens anytime I get into any kind of game making thing. I figure out like a part of it, the part of it that I'm interested in, and I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Kind of like when most recently using the Unreal Engine, I figured out how to, you know, make movable objects, how to give them different textures, because I didn't know how to do that until now, and then I figured it out, and I was like, okay. I figured out how to make certain parts of the map trigger a different movable object. That's really cool. It's really simple, too. I figured out how to make an underwater area. That's convoluted as shit. You have to use, like, a portal, I think, and, like, a water zone, and you have to make the top layer transparent, and it's basically what you do is you open up an existing map, and you study how Cliff Bleszinski did it, essentially, or whoever else designed the map, you know? Because yeah, it can be kind of weird. You know, there's a reason why the Unreal Engine only really caught on during its third, well, technically fourth incarnation, because there was Unreal Engine 2.5 as well. But yeah, it always happens, and I'm convinced that if I were to do it again with some other engine, like Unity or the new Unreals, same thing would happen. I would figure out maybe how to make a character move around on the screen, how to make him jump and stuff, and then I'd be like, okay, but I'd rather play a game that already does that, and it's already been made. I don't know. I've got a strange relationship with video game making. I'm more interested in, funnily enough, I've become more interested in the actual psychological aspects of game design, with the sound design and visuals and length of stages and length of, and like how long certain things take. You know what I mean? That interests me a lot. Ever since Sonic Forces came out, it started to really make me think, like, why do we feel certain ways about games where a certain thing takes a specific amount of time? Because that game infamously had ridiculously short stages, and the thing is, there's plenty of other Sonic games with similarly short levels. In fact, most levels, most cyberspace levels in Frontiers are shorter, and yet they feel more complete. And then I realized why. It was to do with the design, the presentation, the set pieces. It's a combination of a lot of different things, right? And that's... Did she just get frozen? And that's generally what creates an impression of length. Like here, for example, these stages could probably be half the length, and it would still feel fine, I feel, just because of the way the game plays and its design and the way it looks and sounds. I don't know. It's just strange how it plays. Like, the video games are so much more That's why they're the most complicated medium, because they're a combination of everything we've learned as a species so far. They're a combination of music, of visual art, of animation, of composition, of pacing, of fucking with your brain, you know, all sorts of things to combine into one experience. It's incredible. Like right now, what I'm looking at is probably 15 or so years worth of yeah, 15 or so years worth of like pixel art experience. Okay, maybe not that many years, but still, you know, a very clearly the person who made this game or who made the art for the game is very experienced in what they do, because it just looks fantastic. Probably 10 or more years of music experience, right? The guy who did the music. No, I don't know about how much experience with the writing. It's not bad. It's just that I don't particularly know how long generally it takes for a writer to get good at what they do, because I wouldn't know. I've never been interested in writing, to be honest. But you get the idea. It's just all these different things. Not to mention, you know, however many years it took for the guy who programmed this to get good enough to do everything he does in the game. So yeah, that's why games are such a fucking complicated thing. And oh yeah, he dropped health, and like I need that. This is a cool little phase because it drops these enemies, which you actually end up fighting later on in the game, right? Come on, die already. And it's... Wait, I just realized the boss theme is pretty much the same. Does this game only have one boss theme? Yeah, because that music sounds very familiar. Maybe it's a slightly different rendition of it. I'm not sure. Again, I don't really pay too much attention to the music in this game, especially while I'm commentating over it, and because I haven't really sat down and listened to the soundtrack. Although I recently re-listened to the level 1 theme, Dragon Valley, I think it was, and God, that is... You ever hear something and it just screams like fan game? You know, it just has that sound, and I think I know why. Because instrumentally, it reminds me a lot of the music for the first level of this actual Sonic fan game called Sonic Incursion. This one that took about 5 to 6 years to develop, and somehow, according to the developer, was still rushed. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's a fan game. No publisher is pushing you to finish it. So why would you rush it? Like, of your own volition? I guess, okay, maybe I can understand. You're just sick of working on it and you just want it to be done. I can kind of understand that, you know, like sometimes, I'll admit, I rush certain things too. I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for a while now. I want to stop doing it so I can move on to something else. I understand, right? You can even argue that some of these LPs are rushed, right? Like, maybe I should have spent a little more time practicing Rise Star instead of just making my Let's Play a save state fest like it was. But at the same time, I don't really care that much because I feel like I still said everything I wanted to say and I experienced the game the way that I wanted to experience it. Because let me tell you, if I'm going to play the game on my own time, I'm still going to save state like a motherfucker, so, you know, or this game. I'm currently playing through it on a separate save file on normal mode just for the sake of adding just a little more weight to my opinions regarding the game's difficulty. But for the playthrough, I'm fucking casual mode all the way, you know what I mean? I just do not care. I want this to be a smooth flowing experience, and I thought they were going to say something. I stayed quiet for you fucks. Come on. All right, let's move on to the next stage. Come on. Skipping through. Do a little sound effect. Thank you. That's a really cool sound, by the way. I use that sound for when I end these episodes now. You know, like when my little borders come in, you know, like the cyan, bluish, yeah, cyan and like lime green, when they kind of close in. I'm going to use that sound pretty much every time, but only for this playthrough because I don't want to be dead-ass stealing assets across all of my playthroughs. No, I'll only do that for this one because it's part of the game, so technically it's not stealing the assets, you know. Although, I don't know, you think this is like a royalty-free sound, or did they actually... I mean, it sounds like it was made in, like, you know, by someone in some kind of software. I mean, like, no shit, but what I mean is it sounds very thematically appropriate for the game. I know I'm literally discussing the origin of creation of a whoosh sound effect in a 2014 Sonic fan game turned real game. But it's... Oh, key card. It's going to be Duke Nukem, isn't it? But it's true. Like, when I hear that sound, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like it was custom made just for this game because it has, like, this kind of noisy quality. You know, like, it sounds like it's noise that then, like... The fuck? I just talked over that. It sounds like they took some noise and then they, you know, fucked with the EQ on it and he made it go like, you know, I should know because I do that sometimes. You like how in the Hotline Miami video I added some sound effects to that bit just to exemplify my point as to that game should have had more sound effects in the menus? Exactly. That's something I find very entertaining to do. I just did some Ableton practice today and I wrote a composition in 7/4. 7/4, that means that instead of it sounding like a normal piece of music, it sounds like it skips a little bit. and that's intentional. It's not just... Because it is really fun how, like, some PS1 games and stuff will have, like, skipping audio. That's just... It's not even, like, the emulator's fault or something. It's just how the game... how it was put on the disc. And it'll sound like it's in a weird time signature, when in reality, it just skips. No, the composer should take credit for that and just say they were being progressive. Or I was drawing influence from Eastern European folk music. Because, yes, Eastern European folk music, as an Eastern European, I can tell you, has a lot of fucking weird time signatures. It's like... You know, prog metal? Yeah, prog metal ain't got shit on what we do. You know what I mean? It's fucking insane. Like, 16 over, like, 16th notes, but, like, over 32nd, 13, and then something else, and whatever. I don't even understand it, to be perfectly honest. I don't know how the fuck I passed my exam when it came to that, because I had to study that in university. But, anyway, here we have these freaking... You know, these guys remind me of some of the sprites from... Remember Nitrome? Oh, it's the Xbox logo. Remember Nitrome, right? This awesome site... Well, I think it's still around. This awesome site with, like, these really great Flash games. Well, I don't know if they're made in Flash, but they're ridiculously well made. Like, they have some of the most polished pixel art animation I've seen in... any game, let alone like these free little web games, right? They're ridiculously good, and they're all consistently enjoyable. I think some YouTuber made a video like ranking all of them, so go check that out. Just look up like ranking all Nitrome games, I think it was called. I'm not sure what it was actually called, but you know, you can find it that way. But either way, yeah, well, those enemies in the suits, they remind me of, well, I don't know, I think there was... I don't remember any of the names of any of the games from that site other than Bad Ice Cream and Nitro Must Die, which was like basically a big reference fest. It must have been some kind of anniversary game, you know? But yeah, these guys right here. Boom, take him out. Oh, look, he's not been taken out. Kill him. Come on, die. Thank you. There you go. Now he's dead. Really great particle effects as well. This game is absolutely gorgeous. I keep referencing that. And, you know, I actually studied... I decided to sit down and, like, kind of zoom into Lilac's sprite, and I realized there's actually very, very little outlining going on. Most of the contours on the character are created via just different warmths of the color, you know, like different shading using cool and warm. Like, 'cause that's what you do. You don't use black and white to shade things. You use cold and warm to create shading. That generally creates a much more natural look to things. And I've learned that over my years of using Photoshop. It's like, oh, it looks way better when I use a little bit of blue instead of a little bit of black or something like that. You know what I mean? So regardless of that, it is still really fun, though, studying, like, other people's work in that way to try and learn, because, like, that's pretty much how I've always figured things out. You know, I've always had that little bit of, like, oh, no, I'm not going to look up how to do it. I'm going to figure it out myself, unless it's, like, something ridiculously obtuse and you pretty much can't, like, look up and figure out how to do it yourself. Can you not? You have to just use the attack. Oh, you can't use that attack. You basically have to hit him until you've hit the switch, right? There you go, yeah. Oh, yeah, those occasionally turn into blue crystals. Watch out for that lava. Okay, I think I know why that lava looks so out of place and why so many pixel art based games never get lava right. Like, it always looks kind of weird, including stuff like Mega Man X5. You know why? Because it needs to animate in some way. Like, there needs to be at least a few different frames of it looking a little bit different as it's falling. Otherwise, it just looks like a chunk of nothing that's kind of falling down, you know? Not to critique the art too much. I mean, this is, again, a great looking game, but that is one thing that a lot of games of a similar art direction get wrong, and I think I know why. It's because it's just not animated, you know? Gotta put these, Xbox something, you know, I'm surprised Microsoft has genuinely never, tried their hand at making, like, a Vita or a DS type thing, you know? I guess because they don't really have to. I mean, laptops exist, but still, it genuinely shocks me they've never even tried. Because they tried to do because they did the Kinect, which was like their answer to the Wii, and I think PlayStation did the same thing, you know, the PlayStation Move, and of course none of them did as well as the Wii because it's not the Wii, right? Like, they just have a very different market, a very different audience, as opposed to the Wii, which is all about, like, you know, getting your grandma to play games with you, whereas, like, I don't think your grandma is going to own an Xbox 360, right, just naturally, especially because the games on it don't necessarily appeal to their sensibilities. Okay, let's try not to get hit too often. Ow. Sometimes okay, there's always, like, this constant internal struggle of, like, how many times am I going to get hit without feeling like I had a chance to avoid it, even though I technically do have a chance to avoid it because it's a video game which is designed to not be lost, if that makes sense. So it's like, it's my fault for getting hit, ultimately. Also, for some reason, I find the spring sound effect in this game ridiculously satisfying. Come on, where do we go from here? Hold on, so you zoom on up like this, and oh, of course, now I have the key card. Now I have to pull a fucking Doom 64, and dude, Doom 64 is fucking impossible. Like, it's so hard to figure out where to go. I literally have an easier time with something like Hexen in comparison, and I really like Hexen. You ever like, you know what's interesting? Like, Hexen is like the very definition of like a multi-platform game. Like, for its time, it came out on every single system available. It came out on PS1, which is rare because at that time, either there was exclusivity or the Saturn got left out, as it would. But no, Hexen was on Saturn, PS1, MS-DOS, and N64. It was the very definition of a multi-platform game, and yet, I always think of it as an N64 game. Probably because my introduction to that game was via N64 Glenn Plant's review of it, and so naturally, come on man, just stop getting hit. Let's see if we can figure out this pattern. So you have to duck under that, okay, jump over this, of course, and use the Cyclone to kill, that looks like GLaDOS. Like, that literally looks like GLaDOS is one of her cores, or, you know, like her original Portal 1 design before they completely changed her design for Portal 2. I think you don't dunk under that. You actually have to jump over that one. See, it'd be nice if the, what would you call it? The exclamation marks, the warning signs were actually a little bit, like, they were positioned differently depending on how you're supposed to avoid it. You just jump over it, just for safe measure. Ow. And then you get fucking clobbered. Look at that, even with the health regen, I'm still getting destroyed. I died on casual mode. I think I might officially be the worst player to ever play a video game. No, actually, that's still Mark from Classic Game Room when it comes to platformers. And he admits it, too, in his Mario World review. Like, he just straight up says, like, I'm absolutely terrible at this. And, yeah, he is. He's really bad at it, but he just keeps on trucking. He just keeps going, which is really commendable, honestly. Like, the fact that you can have the persistence and patience to keep playing a game you suck at. And that's probably because Mario is just so inherently enjoyable to play. You know, he survived not necessarily on his incredibly good design, although a lot of the Mario games are very, very well designed. It's more so the fact that the games are just so inherently fun to play. Like, I don't even like Mario that much, although I'm one of those weirdos who actually prefers him in 2D versus 3D, to be honest. Yeah, I know, it's strange, but it's like, I don't know, I've never been a huge fan of, like, the Collectathon system, and if I'm going to play a Collectathon, I'm going to play a more fleshed out one, like Spyro. Although, I've never actually played a Spyro game fully. I've played a bit of Spyro 1, and that's about it. I've never really completed any of the Spyro games. Maybe I should. Maybe I really should do a series on maybe Spyro 3. Or 2, it seems to be... There's like this constant debate on the internet, like, which one's better. I don't know, I do kind of agree with Exo Paradigm Gamer that Spyro 3 is the best one, just because it seems to be the most fleshed out and polished. Ow, my face. There you go. Although Spyro 2 is a very cohesive game as well. It's kind of like the whole Crash 2 versus Crash 3 thing. Although, I'm starting to understand, like, the general appeal of Crash 3, despite the multiple playstyles, that they're all very polished and well done. Although Crash 2 is, like, a very traditionalist. It's just basically Crash 1, but just way more refined, even though I still really like Crash 1. I'm, like, the only person on the planet who genuinely likes Crash 1 as much as the other two. And why is the Xbox logo there? Like, that is genuinely just the original Xbox logo. And that makes me really happy, because... I don't know why. It's just, I really love seeing that original logo. It's so cool. It's so 2000s, but at the same time, it feels kind of modern. A lot of things from that time feel very modern still. Like, even the PS2 logo is straight up timeless. Like, I can't imagine that logo ever looking dated to a particular time period, even though I'm well aware that system came out in the year 2000. And it's so bizarre watching stuff like really, really old Classic Game Room from that time, talking about how ugly the PS2 was going to look before they, you know, they changed the design. Because it's true that, like, a lot of systems look different early on. Remember those, like, old prediction videos where it's like, guys, the Xbox 720 is coming out. It's going to be a sphere. Like, how the fuck would that work? You know, why would you ever make it circular, you know? It's because it's not like most computer components are rectangular and or square. But, you know, design language, stuff like that. It's just cool. This level is actually really interesting. How we go from, like, a lava theme to a water theme. But again, look at these enemies. They're just not really all that effective because I'm just kind of running through them. And they can't attack me just by touching me. But at the same time, I think it's a necessary choice, especially if you're going to justify the combat mechanics in the game. Because otherwise, what's the point? Just jump on them. Which, to be fair, this game does kind of have that with the whole, you know, you can double jump into enemies and it does damage. You can bounce off these walls. Wow, okay. This episode is going to go on for quite some time. Because this is a second recording. I had to take a break. But the first bit It's already like 17 minutes. I've been recording for another 7 minutes. Now we're 24 minutes in, but I want to finish this area. You know, I can't really just leave it like that. So let's just keep moving through the stage. I love the way your sprite rotates when, hold on, is this gonna, wait, I just realized, I think I remember the stage. There's a later section of, I'm not sure if it was this area or if it was the next level where, okay, actually, I'm not going to spoil it, just in case you haven't played this game. I know it's kind of old, but at the same time, it's not like a ridiculously popular game, so chances are you might not be aware of what happens after this section. So, I'm going to, what am I supposed to do now? Hold on, here, I can't really move through this section. I guess I have to go back now, there's no water, and I can progress to some other area, right? Yes, I can go here now. I'm assuming this is making progress forward, of course, and the music is very subdued here. I can barely even hear it. Although I do really enjoy just cycloning into enemies. It's probably my favorite method of dispatching them. Go, shh. Oh, just touching the side of that thing kills you. That is, I wasn't expecting that. Well, fortunately, we can just keep moving through. The game is very generous with the checkpoints, as you can see. Like, we're right back to where we just died. Immediately back. That's great, okay? You can really tell this game is a product of, like, a newer time compared to its inspirations, right? Okay, let's try not to get crushed this time. So even if you touch the side of those things, you still die. Because I clearly didn't go under it, and yet it still killed me. So, be very careful here. What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to just keep jumping on these platforms to change their direction of the flame, and it's actually very simple. What do these switches do? Like, seriously, is it just something to grab onto? There's got to be some... Oh, they make the water level change. It's like Wet Dry World, except without a picture of... was it Spain in the background? Like the skybox that everyone writes fucking creepypastas about. Negative emotional aura. God, that was just such a weird thing that happened. And yet, at the same time, I almost kind of get it, because there is a weird vibe to that level, but... The older I get, the less I care about that kind of shit. It's just like, come on, man. It's a fucking level in a 3D platformer. Like, get over yourself. Okay, hold on, wait. It's true that there were exclamation marks there. Oh, of course, I respawn immediately after. Well, that's fortunate, except that I still have to go back and get the key card, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Boop, got the key. Ow, my face. Oh, thank you for breaking that, that crystal for me. I even got an extra life. Okay, let's not get crushed by this thing this time. There you go. Easy, easy, fuck. Okay. Easy peasy, lemon difficult. What was that meme really I saw like years ago where it was like, they say it's gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy, but it's actually difficult lemon difficult. That's funny, you see, because it's a subversion of the way the typical phrase goes. I'm assuming I'm not supposed to fuck pistons, jump on the pistons. That's not how an engine actually works, but that's fun. You know, I wonder how long it'll take for like electric cars to just become the standard and we all collectively forget how cars used to be, like the sound of engines driving driving past, you know, like your window or something if you live near a road. Why did I do that? Like it might become a thing of the past. That's so scary to think about, that the noise you typically hear outside, it'll just go away one day. Why is there a random patch of grass? Where are we even going?
Please remain still during the incineration process. Thank you.
Oh, so they want to incinerate me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not do that. I'm instead going to try and figure out what his weak spot is, which is probably that big green thing in the middle, because obviously it is. And then, oh, okay, I see how this works. The lava gets drawn in, and you have to just not get hit by that. That's actually really simple. Just kind of run away right before the lava comes in. And sometimes it doesn't come in. Oh, there you go. And you can just stand right in the middle. Yeah, of course, that's the weak spot. The bosses in this game are interesting because they all have a very simple way of being attacked. I like them, though, because you don't have to think too hard about how to damage them, and yet they're still very creative and fun to fight in the way that they present themselves, and the way they're animated, and the way they move around, and it's just really freaking cool. And I just realized I said the same thing twice. The way they're animated, the way they move around. Yeah, no shit, dude. It's almost like that's the same thing, but it's true. You know, this game takes great advantage of sprite rotation. It has this very, like, Mode 70 kind of look. Or, again, it looks like a... You know, it actually looks more like an N64 game than a PS1 game, because N64 games like Mischief Makers took way more advantage of that compared to PS1. PS1 games were a little bit more modest with their sprite rotation and Mode 7 bullshit, because, you know, the PS1 is basically just a superpowered Super Nintendo. Except, you know, okay, it's way more than that, but it's true. It's so weird to think that, like, the history of video game systems is so intertwined like that with the different companies, you know, with how there was this betrayal of Nintendo and then Sony, and then Sega was just doing their own thing, and it was just like, oh, it's so strange, but it's also so interesting and fascinating, right? And it keeps going, right? It's not like, oh, it ended in the 90s. No, I mean, there's still similar politics and things happening today, just not maybe to the same extent because things are a lot more relaxed, if that makes sense. I'm not sure how to say it exactly, but it's, I don't know, things were a lot more hectic back then. Like, things were just being discovered and changed, and anyway, we beat the boss, and we're gonna, is this the end of the stage? Yep, alright, we'll see you guys in part 4 of Freedom Planet. We'll be getting, we'll probably be getting suffocated, if I remember correctly. Alright, see you guys then.